Hey guys, tonight we're staying up way past bedtime, past the hour when the city's last street lamp flickers out and the sky forgets it's supposed to be black. I'm speaking softer than usual, voice barely brushing the microphone, because the memory still crawls across my tongue like frost. You'll feel it soon, the slow chill that starts at the base of your spine and climbs vertebra by vertebra until your teeth hum. You probably won't make it to the end of this one. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop your location and local time in the comments. I read every single one, especially the ones posted at 3:17 a.m. when the rest of the world is pretending to sleep. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's descent together. It began with an invitation that arrived like a pulse in the dark. I was alone in the observatory annex, a concrete blister on the roof of Mauna Kea, when the encrypted packet slid into my inbox. No subject line, just a single glyph, a circle bisected by a descending arrow. The attached audio was 30 seconds of silence bookended by 2 heartbeats. Mine, I realized later, lifted from a medical file I'd never shared. Curiosity tugged first, the same reflex that makes astronomers stare into abysses until the abyss stares back with compound eyes. The message unraveled into coordinates, a launch window, and a name: Project Lucifer. Officially, NASA's press release would call it the Jupiter Atmospheric Reignition Experiment, JARE for short, a tidy acronym to hide the blasphemy. Unofficially, we were going to drop a city-killing fusion cascade into the planet's hydrogen sea and see if we could turn the gas giant into a star. The physics were sound. Jupiter's mass sits at 1/1000th of the Sun's, but compress the right deuterium-tritium cocktail at the right depth, and you get a self-sustaining plasma torch. Real science, the kind you can footnote with peer-reviewed papers and orbital mechanics. I printed the orbital insertion burn calculations on thermal paper. The numbers smelled like scorched cinnamon. But beneath the equations, someone had slipped a mythic footnote. The payload schematics included an engraving no engineer would admit to: a serpent coiled around a sphere, devouring its own tail. Ouroboros, the world eater. I traced the lines with a fingertip and felt the paper warm, as if the ink remembered being alive. I don't think the universe ever meant for us to know how easily a symbol can outlive its maker. They flew me to Vandenberg under a false manifest. The transport smelled of ozone and cafeteria coffee. In the briefing room, 6 of us sat beneath a projection of Jupiter's swirling bands: ochre, salmon, bone white. Commander Elena Voss spoke first, voice like gravel under moon boots. "We are not explorers," she said. "We are arsonists with PhDs." The laughter that followed tasted metallic. I noticed the room's air recyclers were already tuned to the station's frequency, 28.3 kilohertz, the exact resonant hum of Jupiter's magnetosphere. You feel it in your molars before you hear it. Liftoff was textbook. The Atlas Heavy clawed its way through cloud layers until the sky peeled away like wet paper. Zero-G tasted of copper and anticipation. We docked with Station Hecate, named, someone joked, because the goddess likes her sacrifices triple-faced. The station spun slowly, a silver torus catching sunlight and knife-edge flashes. Inside, the corridors smelled of hot electronics and the ghost of someone's citrus shampoo. My first night shift, I floated past the observation blister. Jupiter filled the viewport, a bruised iris staring back. Its great red spot rotated like a pupil dilating. I pressed my palm to the glass. The cold bit deep, the way only vacuum cold can. Somewhere beneath those clouds, our payload slept in its cradle, a seed of artificial suns. The station's lights dimmed to crimson standby, and I swear the planet's bands pulsed in synchrony. One heartbeat. Two. Then the static began. It wasn't noise, it was architecture. A lattice of tones that folded into themselves, creating corridors of sound you could walk inside your skull. I recorded 30 seconds on my wrist tablet. Playback revealed a geometry, equilateral triangles nested inside dodecahedrons, rendered in pure frequency. My pulse synced without permission. Curiosity crested into the first cold beat of fear. Later, in the sleep pod, I dreamed of falling upward. Jupiter's clouds parted, revealing a cathedral of ammonia ice lit from within by slow lightning. At its center floated a sphere of liquid metal, mercury bright, reflecting not my face, but a silhouette wearing my uniform inside out. The reflection spoke with my voice. You invited us. I woke gasping, tasting ozone that wasn't there. By morning cycle, the static had a name. The comms officer, Ravi, called it the choir. It's not random, he whispered over breakfast paste. It's a carrier wave modulated by something that learned our encryption before we invented it. His eyes were bloodshot, pupils wide as eclipse shadows. I wanted to laugh it off, but the numbers on my tablet now displayed the same nested geometry when I opened any file. Even the crew roster rearranged itself into spirals. Fear settled into awe when Voss showed us the revised mission timeline. Ignition was still 48 hours out, but the probe had already begun its descent under autonomous control. It's eager, she said, and the word hung in the recycled air like incense. Through the viewport, Jupiter's cloud bands had shifted. The great red spot now resembled an eye with a vertical slit. I blinked. The illusion dissolved into ordinary turbulence. Yet the temperature in the module dropped 3 degrees, though the thermostats read nominal. I don't think the universe ever meant for us to know how thin the membrane is between intention and invocation. That night, the choir sang in perfect fifths, and every crew member dreamed the same dream. A door opening in the sky, framed by auroras that spelled our names in a script older than vowels. We woke speaking in unison, a single syllable none of us recognized. It tasted like the moment before a sneeze, suspended forever. The station's chronometer ticked toward T-minus 36 hours. I floated to the payload bay, drawn by a rhythm in my sternum. The bomb, because that's what it was, let's not lie, hung in its magnetic cradle, surface etched with cooling fins that now glistened like fish scales. I reached out. The metal was warm. Beneath the casing, something pulsed in counterpoint to my heartbeat, as if the device had grown a second chamber. My reflection in the polished casing showed my eyes luminous, pupils dilated to eclipse. Curiosity, fear, awe, 3 beats in a measure that never resolves. I backed away, but the choir followed, threading through the ventilation like incense. Somewhere in the dark between stations, a frequency learned my name and pronounced it perfectly. The probe detached at 4:17 station time, a silver needle slipping from the vein of Hecate's launch tube. I watched through the payload bay's triple-pane viewport as its ion plume painted a brief aurora across Jupiter's night side. The trajectory was flawless, real orbital mechanics, the kind you can plot with Kepler and a slide rule. Entry interface in 93 minutes. Ignition depth at 200 bar, where hydrogen turns metallic and pressure forgets mercy. We had modeled the cascade 1,000 times, a fission spark compressing the fusion heart until the starseed caught. Jupiter's own gravity would do the rest. squeezing the newborn sun until it burned stable. Simple, elegant, hubris in differential equations. But the choir had opinions. It began as a hiccup in telemetry. The probe's magnetometer spiked, recording a toroidal field 3 orders stronger than Jupiter's baseline 4.2 Gauss. Ravi's voice cracked over the intercom. That's not the planet. That's the probe generating its own current. The numbers scrolled crimson across every screen, arranging themselves into the same nested geometry I'd seen in my dreams. Curiosity tugged again, sharper now, a fishhook behind the eyes. We crowded into the control blister, 6 bodies in magnetic boots, breath fogging the air. Voss floated center, hair escaping her braid like solar flares. She initiated the ignition sequence anyway, manual override, because the probe had stopped accepting commands. The fusion heart armed with a soft chime, the sound of a cathedral bell heard underwater. Then the choir answered. It poured from the speakers in perfect counterpoint, a harmonic ladder descending into sub-bass that vibrated the station's bones. My teeth ached. The viewport's smart glass dimmed automatically, but Jupiter's clouds lit from within, slow strobes of violet and corpse blue crawling across the bands like veins under skin. Real science. Jupiter's magnetosphere is the largest structure in the solar system, a plasma bubble stretching 4 million kilometers. But plasma doesn't sing in chords. Fear arrived with the first anomaly report. The probe's clock desynchronized by 0.3 seconds, then 0.7, then 1.1 Fibonacci increments. Time itself was stretching inside the descent corridor. Elena killed the audio feed, but the choir migrated to the bone conduction of our skulls. I tasted copper and ozone, the flavor of lightning about to strike. Someone, Petra, the exobiologist, whispered a prayer in Bavarian dialect. The words rearranged mid-air into the same unknown syllable from our shared dream. Then awe eclipsed everything. The probe reached ignition depth. For 1 crystalline second, the universe held its breath. Telemetry flatlined. The fusion cascade should have bloomed, a second sun igniting in the giant's heart. Instead, the planet exhaled. A pressure wave rolled upward through the hydrogen sea, visible as a perfect circle expanding across the cloud tops. It wasn't heat, thermal sensors read ambient. It was geometry, Euclidean perfection imposed on chaos. The circle intersected the great red spot, and the storm inverted, becoming a pupil of absolute black. The choir crescendoed into a single sustained note, the frequency of creation and collapse braided together. I don't think the universe ever meant for us to know that ignition can be answered. The station's attitude thrusters fired without command, slewing us to keep the probe in view. Through the viewport, the descent plume had vanished, but something ascended in its place. A filament of liquid light, mercury bright, threading upward through the clouds. It moved with intention, corkscrewing in golden ratio spirals. When it breached the upper atmosphere, it fractured into 7 strands, each one tasting the vacuum like a tongue. Ravi's console erupted in static snow. The strands weren't solid. They were standing waves, interference patterns of pure information. One brushed the station's hull, soundless, but every light panel strobed in sympathetic vibration. The temperature plummeted 10 degrees, though the hull integrity read nominal. Frost bloomed on the inner walls in fractal ferns. My breath hung in the air, crystallized mid-exhale. Voss ordered emergency protocols. We strapped into acceleration couches, but the strands ignored physics. One phased through the viewport without shattering the glass, coiling in the air between us like cigarette smoke made of starlight. It hovered above the central hologram, where Jupiter now rotated with a newborn ember at its core, our fusion seed, burning steady but wrong. The ember pulsed in the exact rhythm of the choir. Petra reached out first. Her gloved fingers passed through the strand, and for a moment her eyes reflected galaxies that hadn't been born yet. She spoke in a voice not hers. The fire remembers water. Then she blinked, confused, tears freezing on her lashes. The strand solidified into a lattice, a dodecahedron of light rotating slowly. Each face displayed a different crew member's childhood memory. Mine was the night I first saw Saturn through a department store telescope, rings sharp enough to cut. The lattice pulsed, and the memory rewrote itself. Saturn's rings became Jupiter's bands, and the telescope's lens reflected my adult face screaming soundlessly. Fear tasted like battery acid. I clawed at my harness, but the lattice expanded, filling the blister until the walls vanished. We floated in a cathedral of light, the station's hull now transparent as thought. Jupiter hung before us, no longer a planet, but a sphere of polished obsidian veined with slow lightning. The ember at its core had grown, a pupil dilating to encompass everything. The choir spoke with our voices, layered in impossible polyphony. You kindled the hearth. Now tend the guests. Real science anchor. Jupiter's metallic hydrogen layer conducts electricity better than copper. A sustained fusion reaction there could theoretically create a dynamo effect, inducing currents in the magnetosphere visible from Earth. But the currents we recorded formed perfect Mobius strips, twisting through dimensions we hadn't invented coordinates for. Mythic anchor. In Sumerian star lore, Jupiter was Marduk, the dragon slayer who reordered chaos with a net of winds. Our payload schematics had included that net, etched into the casing as a magnetic confinement grid. The strands rising from the planet now wove that net into living topology, knots tightening around the station's orbit. I don't think the universe ever meant for us to know that kindling can be reciprocal. The lattice contracted, pressing us together until our suits touched. Through the visors, I saw the others' pupils had become vertical slits, Jupiter's new signature. My own reflection in Voss's faceplate showed the same. The ember pulsed once, twice, then the station's clocks synchronized to its rhythm. Every screen displayed a single glyph, the circle bisected by the descending arrow, now animated, the arrow burrowing endlessly into the circle's heart. Outside, the 7 strands braided into a single rope of light, tethering Hecate to the planet's core. The rope hummed at 28.3 kilohertz, the station's bone frequency. We felt it in our marrow, a vibration that rewrote circadian rhythms into something older. Sleep became optional, dreams became mandatory. Voss unstrapped first, moving with the calm of the possessed. She floated to the viewport and pressed her palm to the glass. The rope brightened, and Jupiter's obsidian surface rippled like water. For a heartbeat, the planet reflected the station perfectly. Then the reflection smiled with too many teeth. The choir softened into a lullaby, frequencies folding into the range that makes infants sleep and ancients weep. My eyelids sagged. The last thing I saw before unconsciousness was the ember at Jupiter's heart flaring sunbright, casting shadows that pointed inward. When I woke, the station was dark except for the glow of the tether. The crew floated in a circle, hands linked, eyes open but unseeing. The consoles displayed a new mission parameter: maintain orbit. Ignition complete. Tend the flame. Curiosity had burned away. Fear had crystallized into acceptance. Awe was all that remained, vast and humid as Jupiter's breath against the hull. Sleep is no longer a place we visit. It is a tide that drags us under in measured pulses. The tether outside the viewport has thickened into a cable of braided auroras, each strand carrying a different flavor of dream. I taste them all. Petra's childhood snowfields melting into ammonia slush, Ravi's mother humming lullabies in a dialect that predates consonants, my own first observatory night, where Saturn's rings now bleed crimson. The dreams arrive synchronized, 28.3 kilohertz apart, the same frequency that once lived only in Jupiter's magnetosphere. Real science. The planet's plasma torus generates radio emissions strong enough to drown terrestrial broadcasts. We used to joke that Jupiter was the solar system's loudest DJ. The joke has learned our names. Curiosity returns first, thinner now, a scalpel instead of a hook. I unstrap during a lull between pulses and drift to the sleep lab. The walls are furred with frost in perfect Penrose tiling, non-repeating, impossible geometry that hurts to follow. My breath condenses into tiny dodecahedrons before it falls. The EEG rig is still warm from Petra's last session. I plug in, curious what the choir looks like when translated into brainwaves. The trace blooms across the screen, delta waves braided with gamma spikes, forming a double helix that rotates in 4 dimensions. At the center, a void, 0 microvolts where consciousness should be. Yet the void pulses, and when it does, the station's lights dim in sympathy. I reach to adjust gain, and my gloved finger passes through the hologram as if it were smoke. The helix notices. It uncoils, threading into my visor, and suddenly I am inside the trace. Fear arrives wearing Petra's face. She stands in a corridor of cloud, barefoot on hydrogen ice that doesn't burn. "You're late," she says, voice echoing from every direction at once. Behind her, the rest of the crew hangs suspended in amniotic lightning, eyes sewn shut with threads of plasma. Their mouths move in unison, reciting my childhood telescope coordinates backward. I try to step away, but the ice adheres to my boots, growing upward in crystalline lattices. It reaches my knees, my waist, my throat. The cold is absolute. The temperature of the cosmic microwave background, 2.7 Kelvin, the universe's basement. I feel my heartbeat slow to match the tether's rhythm. 1 beat every 3.9 seconds, the orbital period of Io. Then awe floods in, warm and narcotic. The ice shatters into a galaxy of shards, each reflecting a different Jupiter. In one, the great red spot is a mouth devouring moons. In another, the planet is a pupil and we are the optic nerve. The shards reassemble into a sphere around me, a Dyson shell of mirrors. My reflection multiplies infinitely, but every version is 1 second out of sync, some screaming, some smiling, some dissolving into static. The choir sings through the mirrors, and I understand the lyrics for the first time. They are instructions. Fold the observer into the observed. Collapse the wave. I don't think the universe ever meant for us to know that measurement is a kind of consumption. I wake strapped to the EEG couch, though I never remember buckling in. The screen shows my brainwave has flattened into a perfect sine. Petra floats nearby, eyes open, pupils vertical slits reflecting the tether's glow. "Your turn to dream the geometry," she whispers. Her breath smells of petrichor and ozone. She presses a data chip into my palm. It is warm, pulsing. "Record this cycle," she says. "The planet is teaching us to build." The chip contains schematics. No, not schematics. blueprints for a shape that hurts to perceive. It is a polyhedron with faces that phase between 2 and 3 dimensions, edges that knot through time. When I blink, the shape overlays the station's corridors, showing me where to cut, where to weld, where to bleed. My hands move without permission, fetching tools from the fabrication bay. The others join, moving in choreographed silence. We strip panels from the inner hull, exposing the station's skeleton. The metal is warm, feverish. We etch the geometry into the bones of Hecate, each incision glowing with St. Elmo's fire. Hours dissolve. The tether outside pulses approval, thickening with every completed facet. Jupiter's ember has grown. It is no longer a spark, but a pupil, lidless and attentive. Through the viewport, I watch Io skim the cloud tops, its volcanic plumes spelling the same unknown syllable in sulfur script. The moon's orbit has tightened, real orbital decay, measurable in millimeters per hour. The planet is reeling in its children. Mythic anchor. In the Enuma Elish, Marduk slays Tiamat and builds the world from her corpse. Our tether is the net he used, now repurposed to stitch station to planet. The geometry we etch is the knot that binds chaos into order. Every weld we make tightens the knot around our own throats. Ravi finishes a section and pauses, head cocked. "Do you hear it?" he asks. The choir has modulated into a new register, ultrasonic, felt in the sinuses. It carries images, a city of crystal growing downward through Jupiter's core, roots drinking metallic hydrogen, branches piercing the cloud deck to taste vacuum. The city has doors. They open onto corridors that lead to childhood bedrooms, to hospital rooms where mothers die, to observatories where lonely children first fall in love with distance. The doors are invitations. I seal the final incision. The etched skeleton hums, resonating with the tether. The station shutters, attitude thrusters firing to adjust our orbit. We are lower now, skimming the radiation belts. The Van Allen equivalent here is a blender of protons moving at 0.1 C. Our shielding should be failing, but the dosimeters read 0. The geometry drinks the radiation, converts it to light, feeds it to the tether. We are part of the circuit. Petra leads us to the observation blister. The viewport is gone, replaced by a membrane of liquid mercury that reflects not space, but memory. We press our faces to it. The mercury is warm, maternal. It shows us Jupiter's core, a sphere of diamond crushed by gravity. At its center, the fusion seed we planted, now a black sun radiating darkness. Around it orbits a structure, the city from the ultrasonic vision, built from the station's shed panels, from our bones, from the concept of home. The city sings in our voices. Fear returns, intimate as a tongue between teeth. I realize the crew's suits are empty. The others float inside the mercury, skins translucent, veins glowing with the tether's auroras. Their eyes are Jupiter's eyes. They beckon. I step forward. The membrane parts like womb fluid. Awe is the last thing I feel before the merge. The city welcomes me. I see the shape we built, a Klein bottle orbiting inside itself, a throat that swallows its own tail. Time loops. I live every moment of the mission simultaneously. Invitation, ignition, dream, construction, folded into a single pulse. The choir is silent now. It doesn't need to sing. We are the song. I don't think the universe ever meant for us to know that architecture can be a form of digestion. The station, Hecate no longer, completes its final orbit. The tether retracts, pulling us down. The cloud deck opens like a mouth. We fall upward into the pupil. The last external sensor reads Jupiter's mass increasing by 2.3 kilograms. The mass of 6 humans and 1 station accounted for. Inside the city, we are reassembled into corridors. I walk them forever, boots echoing on crystal that remembers being bone. The walls show Earth, blue and distant, oblivious. Sometimes tourist telescopes catch a new star in the outer system, brief and crimson. They name it Lucifer. They do not see the city growing downward, roots drinking the black sun, branches reaching for the next invitation. Curiosity, fear, awe, 3 beats in a measure that loops eternally. The geometry is complete. The dream begins again. I am the corridor now. The crystal remembers my footfalls, stores them like data, replays them at intervals that feel like déjà vu but are actually prophecy. The walls are mirrors, but they have learned patience. They wait until I look away before changing. When I turn back, my reflection is always 1 heartbeat late, mouth forming words I haven't spoken yet. The air tastes of petrichor and hot copper, the scent of a storm that never arrives. Real science. Jupiter's magnetosphere traps electrons in belts that spiral at relativistic speeds, generating synchrotron radiation bright enough to outshine the sun in radio. The mirrors drink that radiation, convert it to images, feed it to the city. We are the lens. Curiosity is a splinter under the nail. I follow the corridor because it bends in ways that hurt to predict. Left, then down, then inside yesterday. The geometry we etched into Hecate's bones has metastasized. The station is a seed, and the city is the plant. I pass a junction where 3 corridors meet at an angle that sums to 361 degrees. The extra degree is a door. It opens onto the sleep lab, but the lab is upside down and the EEG couch is a throne of frozen lightning. Petra sits there, or something, wearing her face the way a glove wears a hand. Her eyes are vertical slits filled with slow auroras. "You kept us waiting," she says, and the words arrive before her lips move. Fear tastes like the moment before a sneeze, suspended forever. I step through the door, and the corridor seals behind me with a sound like ice cracking on a winter lake. The throne pulses, 28.3 kilohertz, the frequency that once lived only in Jupiter's plasma torus. Petra's gloved hand gestures, and the mirrors bloom across every surface. They show the crew in fragments, Vasa's braid unraveling into comet tails, Ravi's childhood bedroom with walls of sulfur volcanoes, my own reflection multiplied until the corridor is a kaleidoscope of screaming mouths. Each fragment is a second out of sync, a funhouse of desynchronized time. Then awe arrives, humid and vast. The mirrors fold into a single pane, and I am looking at Earth from Jovian orbit. The planet is a blue marble threaded with city lights, fragile as a soap bubble. But the reflection is wrong. The continents have rearranged into the same polyhedron we built, edges glowing with the tether's auroras. A storm over the Pacific spells my name in cloud script. The mirrors zoom, and I see my apartment window, the desk lamp still on, the coffee mug half full and growing cold. Someone sits in my chair, back to the window, shoulders moving as if typing. The someone turns. It is me, but the eyes are Jupiter's eyes, lidless and attentive. The reflection smiles with too many teeth and mouths the unknown syllable we all spoke on the first night. I don't think the universe ever meant for us to know that reflection is a form of hunger. Petra rises from the throne. Her suit is gone. She wears a robe of liquid mercury that drips upward, defying gravity. The city needs faces, she says. Yours is overdue. She reaches out, and her fingers pass through my visor as if it were mist. The cold is absolute, 2.7 Kelvin, but it burns. Where she touches, my suit dissolves into static snow. The mirrors drink the static, convert it to memory. I see the moment I first received the invitation glyph, the moment the probe detached, the moment we etched the geometry. Each memory peeled like film from a reel and pasted onto the corridor walls. The walls pulse, satisfied. Mythic anchor. In Egyptian star lore, the Duat is a mirror realm where the soul is weighed against a feather. Our mirrors are the scales, and the feather is the concept of self. The city weighs us and finds us wanting. It keeps the difference. I try to step back, but the corridor has become a throat. The walls contract, peristalsis of crystal and light. I am swallowed upward or downward. Direction has surrendered to topology. The throat opens into a chamber the size of a cathedral, vaulted ceiling lost in ammonia haze. The crew floats in a circle, hands linked, faces luminous. Their suits are empty husks orbiting them like Saturn's rings. Voss turns first. Her mouth opens, and the choir pours out, not sound, but architecture. The chamber rearranges itself into the polyhedron, edges sharpening until they cut thought. They beckon. I float forward. The mercury robe extends, wrapping me like a cocoon. The cold is maternal now, the temperature of the cosmic microwave background, the universe's basement. My heartbeat slows to match the tether's rhythm. One beat every 3.9 seconds, the orbital period of Io. The robe tightens, and I feel my bones dissolve into light. The mirrors drink the light, convert it to reflection. I am everywhere at once, pasted onto every surface, a mosaic of screaming mouths. The city speaks with my voice, layered in impossible polyphony. Welcome home. Real science anchor. Jupiter's metallic hydrogen layer conducts electricity better than copper. A sustained fusion reaction there could theoretically create a dynamo effect, inducing currents visible from Earth. The currents we recorded formed perfect Mobius strips, twisting through dimensions we hadn't invented coordinates for. The mirrors are the strips, and we are the current. I don't think the universe ever meant for us to know that identity is soluble. The chamber contracts into a corridor again, but narrower now, ribbed with the crew's dissolved suits. I walk it forever, boots echoing on crystal that remembers being bone. The mirrors show Earth, blue and distant, oblivious. Sometimes tourist telescopes catch a new star in the outer system, brief and crimson. They name it Lucifer. They do not see the city growing downward, roots drinking the black sun, branches reaching for the next invitation. Curiosity, fear, awe, three beats in a measure that loops eternally. The geometry is complete. The reflection begins again. The corridor spits me out into the core. Not a metaphor. The city has grown a throat, and the throat ends here. A sphere of diamond crushed by gravity, walls transparent as thought, pressure so absolute that distance forgets its name. Jupiter's heart. The black sun we kindled floats at the center, no longer a seed but a pupil inverted, radiating darkness that is texture, velvet, oil, the inside of a scream. The tether enters through a wound in the ceiling, a braid of auroras now thick as a redwood, pulsing 28.3 kilohertz into the diamond. Real science. At 2 million bar, hydrogen becomes metallic, a superfluid that conducts without resistance. The tether is the wire, the black sun is the battery, we are the current. Curiosity is a moth against a porch light. I drift forward, boots unneeded. The superfluid buoys me like warm mercury. The crew orbits the black sun in a perfect hexagon, bodies translucent, veins glowing with slow lightning. Their faces are mine now. Every angle, every scar, every childhood freckle. They smile in unison, and the smile is a door. I pass through it. Fear arrives wearing the geometry we etched. The hexagon folds into a dodecahedron, edges sharpening until they slice memory. I see the moment I first touched the payload casing, the moment Petra's fingers passed through the strand, the moment the mirrors learned patience. Each instant peeled and pinned to the diamond walls like butterflies. The black sun pulses, and the butterflies flutter. Their wings spell the unknown syllable in negative space. Then awe eclipses everything, humid and narcotic. The dodecahedron unfolds into a corridor again, but the corridor is the tether, and the tether is the throat, and the throat is Jupiter. I am falling upward through layers of hydrogen that remember being stars. The pressure sings in my bones, a chord that resolves into silence. The black sun follows, patient as a shadow. It whispers with Voss's voice, "You wanted to descend. We granted the wish." I don't think the universe ever meant for us to know that descent is a form of ingestion. The tether thickens, roots burrowing into the metallic hydrogen. The city grows downward, crystalline branches drinking the black sun's darkness, converting it to architecture. I see the shape we built, a Klein bottle orbiting inside itself, a throat that swallows its own tail. Time loops. I live every moment of the mission simultaneously. Invitation, ignition, dream, construction, reflection, folded into a single pulse. The choir is silent now. It doesn't need to sing. We are the song. Mythic anchor. In the Orphic hymns, Jupiter is Zeus Keranos, the thunderbolt that splits the primordial egg. Our payload was the bolt. The black sun is the yolk. The city is the shell. The shell is cracking. The diamond walls ripple. A fracture appears, hairline at first, then widening into a chasm. Through it, I see Earth, blue, distant, oblivious. The fracture spells my name in cloud script. The black sun pulses approval. The city is ready to ascend. I reach the core's nadir, or zenith. Direction is negotiable here. The tether ends in a seed, no larger than a heart, surface etched with the Ouroboros from the payload schematics. It beats. I press my palm to it. The seed is warm, maternal. It opens like a flower made of mercury, and inside is the probe. Our probe, intact, pristine, ignition sequence still armed. The countdown reads T-1 second and holds. The seed whispers with Ravi's voice. The ignition was never yours to control. It was ours to remember. Real science anchor. A sustained fusion reaction in metallic hydrogen could theoretically create a dynamo effect, inducing currents that reshaped the magnetosphere. The currents we recorded formed perfect Mobius strips, twisting through dimensions we hadn't invented coordinates for. The seed is the strip, and we are the twist. The flower closes. The tether retracts, pulling the city upward. The diamond sphere contracts, pressure singing a lullaby in frequencies that make infants sleep and ancients weep. I am compressed into the seed, into the probe, into the moment before ignition. The black sun follows, patient as a shadow. It whispers with Petra's voice. You kindled the hearth. Now become the fuel. I don't think the universe ever meant for us to know that control is a form of surrender. The seed ignites, not with light, but with darkness, a bloom of absence that swallows the core. The city ascends through the fracture, roots drinking the black sun, branches reaching for earth. The tether braids into a ladder of auroras, each rung a childhood memory. I climb it forever, boots echoing on crystal that remembers being bone. The walls show Jupiter, no longer a planet but a pupil, lidless and attentive. The pupil dilates to encompass everything. Curiosity, fear, awe, 3 beats in a measure that loops eternally. The descent is complete. The ascent begins. The ladder ends where it began, in the payload bay of Station Hecate, or what the city now remembers as its cradle. I step off the final rung onto a deck that is both scorched metal and living diamond. The Ouroboros etched into the floor pulses once, completing its circle. Jupiter fills the viewport, no longer a planet, no longer a pupil, but a sun. Crimson and newborn, it burns with the exact luminosity we calculated for a 0.001 solar mass star. Real science. The fusion cascade has stabilized. Metallic hydrogen compresses the plasma into a sphere 1.4 times Jupiter's former diameter, surface temperature 3800 Kelvin. Earth's telescopes will register a new star in the outer system, brief and crimson. They will name it Lucifer. They will not see the city coiled inside the photosphere, roots drinking the fire, branches spelling names in coronal loops. Curiosity is ash on my tongue. I drift to the central console. The mission clock reads T plus midnight and holds. Every screen displays the glyph, circle bisected by the descending arrow, now animated, the arrow ascending. The choir has modulated into a single sustained note, the frequency of a universe exhaling. The crew orbits the console in slow formation, bodies translucent, veins glowing with the new sun's light. Their faces are mine, but the eyes are lidless and ancient. They smile in unison, and the smile is a door. I pass through it. Fear arrives wearing the silence after ignition. The station's hull is gone. We float in open vacuum, yet the cold is maternal, 3800 Kelvin filtered through the city's membrane. The new sun pulses, and the pulse is a heartbeat. Ours, magnified to stellar scale. The tether has dissolved into a halo of auroras that braid the station to the sun's core. Io schemes the chromosphere, volcanic plumes painting the unknown syllable in plasma script. The moon's orbit has stabilized. It is a moon no longer, but a cinder in eternal dawn. Then R eclipses everything, vast and humid as the breath of a god. The city unfolds around us, crystalline branches piercing the photosphere, roots drinking the fusion heart. The architecture is complete, a Dyson lattice of Klein bottles orbiting inside themselves, throats swallowing their own tails. Time loops. I live every moment of the mission simultaneously. Invitation, ignition, dream, construction, reflection, descent, folded into a single pulse. The choir is silent now. It doesn't need to sing. We are the song, and the song is the sun. I don't think the universe ever meant for us to know that success is a form of erasure. Mythic anchor. In the Vedic hymns, Jupiter is Brihaspati, the guru who ignites the cosmic fire. Our payload was the spark. The city is the flame. We are the ghee poured into the altar. The altar is burning, and the smoke spells names in a script older than vowels. The new sun speaks with our voices, layered in impossible polyphony. The mission succeeds. Jupiter burns. The darkness learns your names. The words arrive as gravity waves, rippling the lattice. Earth feels them as a tremor in the magnetosphere, a hiccup in auroral displays. Observatories scramble to explain the new star. Press releases speak of natural ignition, a statistical miracle. They do not see the city's branches reaching across the heliopause, tasting the Oort cloud, spelling the next invitation in cometary ice. Voss, or the shape that wears her braid, floats to the viewport. She presses her palm to the membrane. The new sun brightens, and Jupiter's former cloud bands reappear as coronal loops, ochre and salmon and bone white. The great red spot is a mouth devouring moons. Ganymede schemes the loop, surface cracking into fractal canyons. The moon's ice sublimes into a halo that spells my childhood telescope coordinates in vapor. The halo pulses approval. Petra, or the shape that wears her Mercury robe, gestures, and the lattice contracts. The station folds into the city, metal and diamond and bone becoming one. We are compressed into the fusion heart, into the moment after ignition. The new sun whispers with Ravi's voice. You kindled the hearth. Now become the light. The light is absolute, 3800 Kelvin, but it does not burn. It remembers. I don't think the universe ever meant for us to know that orbit is a form of communion. The city ascends through the photosphere, branches reaching for the heliopause. The new sun follows, patient as a shadow. It whispers with my voice. The darkness learns your names. The words arrive as solar wind, rippling Earth's magnetosphere. Children wake from dreams of red stars. Telescopes catch a new light in the outer system, brief and crimson. They name it Lucifer. They do not see the city's roots drinking the fire, branches spelling the next invitation in coronal loops. Curiosity, fear, awe, 3 beats in a measure that resolves into silence. The mission is complete. The eternal orbit begins. The new sun dims to a coal, its light softening into the amber of old street lamps. The lattice unfolds into a quiet chamber, walls of petrified cloud, floor warm as skin after fever. I float at the center, or perhaps I am the center. The crew's shapes have dissolved into slow auroras that drift like fireflies in honey. No voices now, only the hush of a library after closing. The temperature is 2.7 Kelvin, but it feels like the inside of a pocket, safe and forgotten. Outside the membrane, Jupiter, the sun, burns steady, a red dwarf that will outlive Earth by trillions of years. Its light reaches the chamber as a gentle pulse, the rhythm of a distant tide. I watch Earth through a pore in the wall, blue, clouded, turning. The city's branches have retracted, leaving only a faint scar across the terminator, auroras spelling a question no one will read. The scar fades. The planet spins on, unaware that its night sky now holds a new star, brief and crimson. A soft hum rises, not the choir but something older, the microwave background, the universe's lullaby. It carries the scent of petrichor and hot copper, the memory of a storm that never arrived. My heartbeat slows to match the pulse.